You're listening to Best Forevers, a podcast for kindred spirits, a podcast that encourages you to love more on your friends and to further consider the issues that plague friendships. I'm Alysa Lucas, and my brain hurts because I was made to learn things for this episode. Yes, I'm here with Claire for another book club episode, and she always has me reading these really hard books. Like, how did tweens and teens read these books?
It's not a hard read. It's just a lot of information.
I'm exhausted. But yeah, hi, Claire. Welcome.
Hi.
How are we doing today, Claire?
Oh, you know, living the dream, the last stretch of the semester.
Yeah, we have 3 weeks left, and then we decided to put a book club special right in
right in the middle of everything.
Let's read a book. And then I should have known that if it was going to be your choice, it's going to take longer to prep versus my, 20-minute reads.
Yeah.
We might as well be reading picture books in comparison to yours.
You know, YA has adapted so much since you were
Oh my God, so much. It's hard. But I do feel accomplished after reading a YA book, young adult book, because I know that some might be longer or more detailed or smaller writing, more complicated topics, and this is obviously written for teenagers and that sort of thing. Yeah. But so you can read them a little bit faster, but this one I was like, God, am I back in middle school again?
Well, see, I had the background info, so I could whip through it fast because I'm like, okay, I know what all this stuff is. I'm good.
Well, yeah, your book looks like it's been read by 100 people, but it's only been owned by you?
Yeah, only me.
Cool. Oops. Mine is brand new. Where did mine go? Oh, it's right here. But I feel like I've bent it in all sorts of ways to flatten it out so that when I was writing notes that I could lay my arm on it
and keep
because I couldn't spell anything either.
Yeah, this spelling is a challenge.
So yes, here we are. We're here for a book club episode, and so let's remind listeners how that is set up because it's been a few weeks since the last one, right? Mm-hmm. So we're analyzing books about friendship, and so what we do is sometimes we read book from my yesteryears, the ones that take 20 minutes to an hour tops, right? And then the next episode focuses on a book that Claire has read, which is apparently 1,000 pages and in a different language, apparently. And so those are usually from the mid-2000s, I want to say, is so far what we've done. So first we covered my saucy and sassy Sweet Valley High, entitled Secrets, created by Francine Pascal. How could you forget? Mm-hmm. And then we read Your Girl Power by Alicia's book, I Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You, by Allie Carter. Then the last time we talked about My Squeaky Clean Fun out of one of my favorite series, The Babysitter's Club, written by N.M. Martin. So that means it's Claire's turn, which I've already been complaining about for 3 minutes approximately.
It's fine. Deep down, you appreciate that I get you to read these books.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited because this is the first book that does have a male protagonist. Yes. And so we've been reading books that are quote-unquote for girls, even though I don't believe in any of that crap.
Nope.
But we're discussing one of the books from your YA life. And what I have written here is the back of the book, which I get to read. But why don't you introduce your book overall?
Yes.
What book is it? Why did you choose it?
Yes.
Tell us.
So
Tell me. I want to know why I spent this time. No, just kidding.
So the year is 2010. And I was in 6th grade.
Oh, when you actually read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's when the movie came out. I looked that up.
Oh, we don't speak of the movie, first of all. It's terrible. Never watch it.
Oh, we're going to watch it. Aren't we going to watch it and do a special episode for Patreon?
It's so bad, though. I've seen it one time. That's how bad it is. I forget about it most of the time. There's a musical, though, eventually. That's a whole nother bag of worms. We haven't even said the name of the book yet.
I know, and I just hit my glasses on my mic because I was laughing about it being a musical. Go ahead.
So whenever the movie came out, I guess I found these books. My friend Camille, when we were kids, loved these books, and I never read them, but they're called Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and they follow the story of a young boy as he finds out that he is not entirely mortal, and he is the son of a god. So
aren't we all?
We go on. Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? My dad, can I just tell you this side note? My dad used to say that he was the model for the Sparty statue on Michigan State's campus. So a Spartan is the mascot for Michigan State. And so there's this great, this, what do you call rock? No, marble.
statue.
There's a statue, and it's like this grand Spartan. My dad always was like, "That's me." And so whenever we drive by it when I was a kid, like, look, it's Dad.
That's something my grandpa would do for sure.
So yeah, totally. We're all the children of gods.
Of God. Yes, children of gods.
Yeah. So Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Which the only thing I had heard of is the movie, which apparently is the worst.
Horrible. We know. No.
When I looked it up, I thought it was the kid Clay from 13 Reasons Why, and I got all excited. Then I realized, no, that's the kid who played Charlie in Perks of a Wallflower.
Oh,
which
I mean, they're kind of interchangeable.
They look a lot alike. But because Claire chose the book, I get to read the back cover, so you can get more information about Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Okay. Percy Jackson, which, first off, I'll just give credit. This is a great name. Okay. Percy Jackson is about to get kicked out of boarding school, ... again.
Our favorite ellipses.
Yes. And that's the least of his troubles. Lately, mythological monsters and the gods of Mount Olympus seem to be walking straight out of the pages of Percy's Greek mythology textbook and into his life. Can you imagine if your textbooks from class came to life? Like, stay away from the history books.
Yeah.
When they cover stuff from history in the history books.
Yeah.
And worse, he's angered a few of them. Ooh, you don't want to anger the gods. Zeus's master lightning bolt has been stolen, and Percy is the prime suspect. Now, Percy and his friends just have 10 days to find and return Zeus's stolen property and bring peace to a warring Mount Olympus. It's a lot of pressure for someone who's 12.
Yeah.
But to succeed in his quest, Percy will have to do more than catch the true thief. He must come to terms with the father who abandoned him, solve the riddle of the oracle, which warns him of betrayal by a friend, dun dun dun, and unravel a treachery more powerful than the gods themselves.
Very dramatic.
It is.
It's very YA, which makes sense.
Yeah, and so Claire, what did you think in your... Wait, how many times have you read this book?
Not as many as like Harry Potter, so probably like 3 times maybe. Maybe?
How many times have you read Harry Potter?
Too many. We're not going to talk about it.
Is this like when we first started doing the book club and you would get in trouble for reading Twilight in class? Did you get in trouble for reading Harry Potter in class?
No, because I read Harry Potter, like, my mom made me wait till, like, all the books were out, so I read them all in one go.
Oh,
and then I would reread, like, my favorite ones. Like, I love Prisoner of Azkaban.
Nice.
That's my favorite. And I like the 5th one, Order of the Phoenix. So,
yes.
I would reread
those
the
are
ones
two of my favorites, too. I was actually just on Archaeopolitics to talk about The Prisoner of Azkaban with my friends Adrian and Aaron. That was fun. And then Order of the Phoenix I like because that's when Harry Potter's, like, super angsty.
That's why I liked it.
He's
that was
so
as angsty
emo.
as I got
Emo
as a teen.
Harry.
Yeah. It was as angsty as I got as a teen was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I was like,
So, but what did you think about your reread of Percy Jackson for today?
I forgot how much they crammed in the first book because I remember like some of this being, I thought it was all spread out because like the first one's called The Lightning Thief.
Yeah.
And there's 4 other ones.
Yeah.
On the original series. Yeah. So I was like, oh man, we're covering like all the major myths in the first one. I didn't realize we were going to hit all of those. But
maybe you should have done a look-see-loo.
Yeah, whoops.
Gave it to me.
I was like, you know what? Male protagonist. We're not going to do Harry Potter because that's a whole, like, that'll take forever.
Like several episodes.
Yes.
It's like, no.
That's its own kind of book club.
Yes,
like
exactly. That's a whole pocket. That's Archaeopolitics.
Yes.
Podcast. They're covering each chapter of each book, and then they cover the movies as well. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of information in there, but did you enjoy it in this 4th read?
Yeah, it was a good time. I hadn't picked it up in a few years, so it was nice to revisit Percy and Annabeth and everybody.
And Grover. Grover! Horrible name. But Percy Jackson is a great name. Like, I'm like, oh, he sounds like a cool kid.
Yep.
Yeah, so my first thoughts...
Oh, boy.
Okay, so folks, I'm 40. And I was asking Claire before we started recording, what class in high school or middle school would you have learned about Greek mythology? And she's like, well, there's lots of different classes. You probably read the Odyssey.
Odyssey.
I added a syllable. Is that different from the Iliad? Or is that
the Iliad? It's the first book, and then the Odyssey's the second book. Because the Iliad's the Trojan War.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that came in Mrs. Schoen's English class in middle school. And she was a great teacher. So I think we read the books. I remember like we had to do the Odyssey, like we had to write like a diary or something, and so we used like tea to stain the pages
Didn't
and
we
like
all do that?
candles to burn it because all the wear and tear. But I do vaguely remember we got to make our own masks for something related to Greek mythology, and so we were supposed to design them ourselves. And I think I just painted mine like dark blue and green, so it was like half and half.
Nice.
I don't know.
I like it. It's good. Theater's big in the Greeks. That makes sense.
Very stylistic. But yeah, she was a great teacher. We read Anne Frank's diary, and then we had a day where we lived as if we were Anne Frank's family.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she was a really good teacher, but it's been many years. So that's why I'm like, that must have been the class that it was in. But this was my first thought when I read it. I felt like the author, whose name is Rick Riordan.
Riordan, I think.
Riordan?
Riordan?
Okay. I felt like he was a parent trying to get his kid to eat vegetables by stuffing 100%.
In. That's why he wrote the book. He's like, my kids need books of substance, so we're going to write about Greeks.
He's like, I'm just going to stuff this like Greek mythology in a YA book like I put peas or broccoli and macaroni and cheese or something. Like, I'm just trying to get my kids to eat. So that's
we're
what
going to spoon feed them the Greek mythology bit by bit.
Yeah, so, and then I was like, my second thought was like, this guy was a Greek mythology nerd. Oh my goodness. But overall, I thought it was very exciting. I knew there was a movie. I haven't seen it. I watched the trailer, and that's when I was like, oh my God, it's Clay from 13 Reasons Why, but it wasn't. And so I looked at it, and I was going to try to see if I could find it. But it took me, I've been working on this all day to like kind of script out the plot and stuff like that. And I was like, this takes so long. There's so much information. Like,
that's why the movie sucked.
Well, but when I was reading it, I was like, this is really action-packed, and I could see it very much being a movie, but I could see it being multiple movies.
It should be like a mini-series. Like, the first book should have been...
like a Netflix. You might want to get on it. Get Clay from 13 Reasons Why.
He can be Percy.
I don't know what his real name is. But, so that's my... initial thoughts was like, this guy's a clever parent trying to stuff in some Greek mythology where people don't expect it and being like, hey, that wasn't bad. Yeah, you just had Brussels sprouts, sucker.
Look, this is fun and cool.
And then here are all these names and stuff that you're not going to be able to pronounce, so you're going to sound stupid on your podcast.
Honestly, though.
Yeah, so Clara's in charge of pronouncing everything today.
My apologies if I do it wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, you get, like, an Oedipus, like, situation where
I don't know
like,
what that means.
Like, well, some people say Oedipus differently. Some people say, like an Oedipus. Some people say Oedipus. Some people say Oedipus.
Tomato.
Yeah, it's one of those. We're just going to go with that.
Well, it's probably not. It's like... you say in research measure, but I had a teacher that would say measure, and I was like, no. That never seems right. Or data versus data. No, it's
you are
data.
Incorrect.
Right? Yeah, so
you were incorrect.
I'm sure there's someone who has a cross interest in friendship and Greek mythology who will be interested in correcting us, and we welcome it.
Yeah.
We welcome it because I'm exhausted.
Yes. You give me those timestamps where I screwed up, and I will gladly go back and listen.
She's asking for timestamps. Is that like shots fired? I don't know. So, okay. So then basically what we do in the episode is we share the plot of the book, and then we end with some commentary about the book and friendship. And then, of course, the fun part is always... like introducing the next book of the series, which is my choice.
Yes. So I'm sure it's going to take me an hour and a half to read, and it'll be great.
Listen, and you're welcome.
Yeah, my student brain thinks.
Yeah. But we've had really good luck with the previous books. Like, we've had stories about the books where we've had previous people's books. We don't have that, though. No. That's your original copy, though, right?
This is my original copy. Bought it in a box set in, like, 2010.
Yeah, mine is from Schuler's in Okemos, Michigan. Yes, Okemos, Michigan. The only store in the Lansing area is still open. The one at Eastwood Town Center closed. But yeah, I know. It's really sad. But this is a brand new copy for me, and I'll be giving it to my nephew.
There you go. Get him
when
hooked.
He's old enough.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's going to be 10, but I still feel like he might need a couple years for that.
Yeah.
But we'll send it, and we'll let my brother decide. So, let's get started, and I can start.
Okay.
All right. So we meet 12-year-old Percy Jackson at Yangtze.
Wait, pause.
Yes.
The chapter titles are amazing.
Oh, yeah. I did include those in there for myself. It says, I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher. And I was like, I'm interested. I hated pre-algebra and algebra, post-algebra.
Whatever, math.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, like, every book has these amazing chapter titles.
Yeah.
Like,
we will maybe announce some that, like, the next one is 3 Old Ladies Knit the Socks of Death. And so that's fun. But, you know, some of them, the chapters we combined together in the plot. So you definitely, I'll take a picture and post the chapter titles so people can see. Okay, so we meet 12-year-old Percy Jackson at Yancey Academy. Is that Greek mythology?
I don't know. Did they have the letter Y?
Yeah. Did they have the letter? I don't know. You're asking the wrong
Olympus,
person.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
What's that one guy, the god of wine?
Dionysus.
He has a Y in his name, too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that theory has been busted. All right, so he's telling us in the book that he didn't want to be a half-blood, and I'm already like, is this Harry Potter or True Blood?
Combine the two. Let's have some
exactly.
Fun.
This is a combo book for the YA. You could have vampire wizards, and I think that is an area of market that has not been swept up by any author.
No one's tapped that yet.
And tapped that. Sorry, that made me giggle. But I'm offering it to a YA author out there. Yeah, or maybe that can be our first book together. Yeah, zombie wizards.
Zombie wizard vampires. Go.
Oh, yeah, I added zombie.
Why not?
Same diff. All right. So Percy appears to be a troublemaker, but he keeps getting kicked out of private schools. And did I mention that he's 12? Like, how do you keep getting kicked out? Like, I don't feel like I thought about breaking rules until I was, like, never 0 days old. Like, I never
But he's a rowdy young lad. Like, who knows?
Okay. So I was like, is Percy essentially the Kevin McAllister of private schools, like the Home Alone kid? Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Okay. Okay. Despite his trouble, Percy is still allowed to go on field trips, which seems like a very bad idea. Yeah. And this time they're heading to the Metropolitan Museum of Art to check out what he calls, quote, ancient Greek and Roman stuff.
You know what? That's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Although Percy is not the best student, he really likes his Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, who's in charge of the field trip, but does not like his pre-algebra teacher, Mrs. Dodds, who's also along for chaperoning. So he's got one he likes, one he doesn't like. I wonder what might happen. So when they're on the trip, he gets quizzed about Greek stuff by Mr. Brunner. He gets some quality time with his best friend, Grover, and has to deal with the mean girl, Nancy Boba Fett.
Boba Fett, sure.
Which I was like, Boba Fett? Like, yeah, and then I was like, Star Wars!
Yeah.
And she treats Grover and Percy really poorly. And Percy is particularly protective of his best friend Grover, who he describes as scrawny and crippled and emotional. After a run-in with the bully Nancy, where she is somehow, quote-unquote, pulled into the water fountain, Percy is confronted by Mrs. Dodds, and you might imagine there could be usual teacher punishments. Timeout? I don't know. Maybe they're too old for
detention.
That. Clean the classroom, detention, suspension. Maybe if Nancy was hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
But instead she attacks him.
As you do.
After turning into, quote, a shriveled hag with bat wings and claws, and I guess I use the word wings again, and a mouthful of yellow fangs. And that sounds exactly like what I think of math.
Typical Tuesday.
Tuesday. Well, that's what I have nightmares about when I think about math. Is like bat wings and yellow teeth. So during this confrontation, Mr. Brunner arrives and gives Percy a pen to fight with Mrs. Dodds, which is like, that pen is mightier than the sword.
And Percy's like, no, bro.
Nope. The pen turns into a sword.
Oh.
Handy dandy. This is very James Bond. And Percy vaporizes her. But after the event, no one knows who Mrs. Dodds is. She apparently never existed. And he thinks everyone is like playing a prank on him. But the only one who seems willing to indicate that Mrs. Dodds was not a hallucination is his good pal, Grover.
Yes.
So, Claire, why don't you go ahead and take the next part of the plot?
So we have 3 old ladies knit socks of death. Because that's a normal thing.
Yes.
So Percy is for sure being kicked out of Yancey. Like, we're not coming back from that.
Yeah.
But he tries to succeed on his Latin final for Mr. Brunner. So the night before, he goes to his office and ends up eavesdropping on a conversation between the teacher and Grover. Percy hears them talk about something called a kindly one, that Grover is afraid he'll screw up his duties again, and something about the summer solstice deadline, because that's normal things to talk about with your teacher. When he realizes they're talking about him, Percy drops his textbook and the conversation ends. He's not a very good spy.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, we're not in the Allie Carter book anymore.
Yeah, we've moved on.
Bye, spies. Hello, immortals or whatever this is. Sons of gods.
Yeah, half-bloods. He goes back to his dorm to study and then off to take the exam the next day. So afterwards, Mr. Brunner tells Percy that Yancey isn't for him, but he did well. Leaving the school down, Percy rides the bus home with Grover and drops a bomb on him. Looking for kindly ones, Grover panics because he's a terrible liar, but is able to cover up with his concern for Percy's stress, but Percy doesn't believe him. The bus breaks down and Percy gets off the bus, and there are 3 old ladies knitting socks the size of sweaters, staring at him. They snip the yarn and Grover suggests, maybe that's a bad sign. You know, that's not great.
Well, everything seems fine.
Yeah.
Knitting, old
That's
ladies,
normal.
Stereotype, right?
Yeah, they're out of
We're going to have
fruit
to snip
stands.
some yarn.
Yeah.
But socks the sizes of sweaters concerns me.
Yeah, it should. It's like, who are these for?
Exactly. Yeah. Who are these for? So then, next title of a chapter, Grover unexpectedly loses his pants.
Fun.
Percy ditches Grover when they get to the bus terminal because his friend is freaking him out because he's talking about kindly ones and these weird old ladies. And so
He's super paranoid.
Yeah, he's super paranoid. So he heads home to be reunited with his mother, Sally Jackson. Percy tells us that Sally has had a tough life and the only good thing was meeting his dad. He doesn't remember his dad except for what he calls a warm glow. So like maybe this like really positive feeling that he had around his dad. And all he knows is that his dad was lost at sea.
Not dead. Lost at sea.
I was like, what year is it? Who gets lost at sea these days? I was like, what is happening? Does that still happen? I was like, that sounds like people are coming over on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like,
Sailing to the new world. Like, hope we make it.
or like people go off in boats and then like a storm happens, I
Yeah,
guess.
maybe got stuck in a hurricane, something. Who knows?
Yeah, what's that movie with Julia Roberts? You might not have seen this, Sleeping with the Enemy.
No.
There's a storm and she,
No.
quote unquote, falls off a boat. She gets lost at sea. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sally ends up marrying Gabe, who is described as a world-class jerk who's smelly and is deep into gambling. Oh, and just like the cherry on top, Percy and Gabe don't get along. So it might not be a surprise that he's at private schools based on that relationship alone, that like there's some difficulties at home. But my question is, who doesn't get along with the 12-year-old? Like,
He's 12. He can't do that much.
He can pretty much take care of himself.
Yeah.
Give him a book of video game, TV, or
Whatever.
other sort of healthy activities that don't include screen time. And
encourage him to go outside, you know?
yeah, I'm sure. I'm like,
Central Park's right there. Maybe.
oh yeah, they're in New
Yeah, send the
York.
12-year-old to Central Park. It's fine.
Yeah, by himself.
Yeah.
Kevin McAllister did it.
Exactly.
Home Alone 2.
Woo.
Wow, we got 2 Home Alone references in one episode.
So proud of you.
Nailed it. All right. So as soon as he gets home, Gabe is looking for money from Percy. And I'm like, again, he's 12. Whereas Percy is looking for his mom. When she arrives, she announces her and Percy are taking Gabe's Camaro. Holla,
Oh, boy.
and going to Montauk. Is that a place?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's in upstate. Or it's on Long Island, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, yep. For a few days, a place they've been going together since Percy was a baby. As they eat food over the campfire, Mom and Percy soon talk about his lost at sea father. Apparently, his dad wanted Percy to go to a special summer camp. Ooh.
And Percy's like, why would he bring that up of all things?
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't he want to know who I am?
like, here's your
Or,
newborn son. Send him to summer camp when he's like 5.
or 12, whatever.
Yeah.
But that might mean that Sally would never see her son again. So this special summer camp is like, you can't see your son again. And so, like, this is a real special summer camp. Percy that night has a horrible dream and wakes up to a hurricane, and Grover, who somehow has tracked him down, having been looking for him since he got ditched at the bus terminal. Oh, and by the way, Grover has hoofs for feet. And I don't mean that, like, as a euphemism.
No, he actually.
Or as, like, a metaphor, like, legit hoof feet. Where
Yes.
actually, well, they're not hoof feet. They're hoofs.
Yeah, they're just hooves. Yeah.
And then it
Normal.
gets stranger. Why don't you tell us about how it gets stranger?
Yeah, so my mom teaches me how to bullfight is our next chapter title. So the 3 run away in the Camaro. They're running from something. There's something that Grover, like, sensed behind them or something. There's I don't know. And as they drive, Percy discovers that his best friend has been keeping tabs on him. And is
at the school, right? Like, so that's why he was at the school with him.
Right. He was purposely there for Percy. He wasn't there because he wanted to be at Yancey. He was just...
Does anyone want to be at school? No, just kidding. Yes.
No, I liked school. That's true.
Because you're a nerd.
Yeah.
You're the one who's brought in a Greek mythology book. Don't even lie. Don't even lie.
So he not only has he been keeping tabs on him, he's actually a goat from the waist down. Just normal best friend stuff, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I have a couple episodes of Best Forevers about goat friends.
Do you?
No, I don't.
I was like, what? I haven't listened to the back catalog in a while. I was like...
Let me refer you to episodes 13, 27, and 42 for my episodes on goat friends.
I'm so tired. Yikes. I'm yikes today. Whoops.
I'm going to make up fake goat episodes and I'll put those on Patreon.
Great.
Yes, go ahead. Continue. I'll stop mocking you.
Your comment is Percy hallucinating again. Nope. But he needs to get to safety because those 3 old ladies were actually the Fates. And they were there to cut the yarn, and they only cut the yarn when someone is about to die.
As far as I understand it.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, cool.
Sally keeps saying, we're almost there, but, like, where is there? Like, we're in the middle of upstate New York. We have no idea where we are.
Yeah.
They're headed to that summer camp, but they are stopped and after veering into a ditch. After they were ran off the road by something. We don't know what. They have to get out of the car and run. There's a monster after Percy, and he has to get to this big white house on the other side of this, like, tree line. Mm-hmm. Percy knows this monster from his class. He's being chased by the Minotaur, a part man, part bull, who is, like, one of the most famous monsters in Greek mythology. Like, we're just
I thought the centaur was.
No, they're good guys. They have bows, and they're kind of...
Minotaurs or centaurs?
The Minotaurs
are bad guys.
Minotaurs are bad guys. Centaurs are good guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm with you now.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. This is the guy, if for anyone that was, like, in the maze.
Yeah.
Yeah, he guarded the maze. So, in the olden days. Now he's chasing small children off the highway. Because that's normal.
He's got a long resume.
Yes, he does. So Grover and Sally help Percy navigate the Minotaur with only his safety in mind. In fact, the monster chokes Sally and she completely dissolves. His mom is dead, or so he thinks. She turns into a golden light and disappears.
She dissolves?
Into golden light.
It's like, spoiler, the last Marvel movie.
Wow. We're firing shots out here today. Okay.
Yeah.
Rowdy on Maine. All right. All right. And then Grover gets knocked out. So his mom is gone. Grover is out cold. So in the battle, Percy snaps off one of the Minotaur's horns and stabs him with it. Like, that's a way to go out. Your own weapon takes you out in terms of the Minotaur. The monster is gone, and Percy tends to his best friend. They make it to the house, and then he passes out on the porch. But before that happens, Percy hears someone say, he's the one.
He's the one. That would be, if I heard that, I'd be like,
Get out of here.
Yeah, that means you're like going on some sort of Star Wars, Harry Potter, The Maze, Percy Jackson sort of bullshit quest.
Yeah. It's time for a hero's journey, everybody.
Which I guess is like one of the main stories of life ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one, I combined some of the chapters, but Claire will jump in here or there. Yeah. So these chapters are called I Play Pinochle with a Horse, I Become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. My dinner goes up in smoke and we capture a flag. This, what I was thinking when I was sort of scripting out this part or outlining this plot was that this might be like the fun part of the movie. It's like in the Hunger Games when you get to know all the other people in the districts,
we're
right?
Training and stuff.
Yes, we're training and we're learning about stuff because we know nothing yet. And so in some ways I see this as a tight 15 to 20 minute part of the movie where we're introduced to all the characters, the background, and we have training montages.
Yes, we do. Okay. Dramatic, silky montages of sword fights.
Exactly. Okay, so now that we set the scene, Percy wakes up 2 days later. Sometimes you just need a good coma. Grover is there and confirms, like he asks if his mom's dead, and Grover is just puts his head down, and so that confirms to Percy that his mom is in fact dead. He also confirms that he's the worst
satyr.
Thank you, ever. And that's I searched that. That's a drunken woodland god.
Yeah, they're these little like half goat, half man things that are just running around chasing nymphs all day.
What's a nymph again?
Those are things that live in the trees and the flowers and the stuff. They're little spirits, woodland spirits.
Cool.
Yeah. You're just like, this is so much.
There's so many things. It's like, this is like me the first time I watched Game of Thrones. Who the hell is that? What's going on?
You need a spreadsheet.
I need like a flip chart. I need the serial killer string wall where you're like connecting all the people and the facts. Like, I need like a Game of Thrones murder room. Like, I need the Percy Jackson world.
You need the pantheon on the wall.
Yes, I need it all. Okay. So Grover's feeling pretty upset about what happened, but Percy reassures him that it's not his fault. Percy drinks something that tastes like his mom's warm chocolate chip cookies in liquid form, and he feels better.
Again, normal stuff.
Grover takes him to meet Chiron.
I
said it right, Chiron, and Mr. D. Surprise! Chiron is his Latin teacher from the academy.
Yancy.
Yep, so Mr. Brunner, and then Mr. D looks like a cherub.
But like a fat, like sad cherub who hit middle age. Like balding, probably drinks a lot of beer.
He's got like a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, exactly. He's like your old Italian like uncle. He's that guy.
Cool. How many times have I said that? Cool. He also meets a blonde girl named Annabeth, and it's like, okay, so who are these people and where the heck are they? They're playing Pinochle, and Chiron tells Percy that the gods are powerful in his life. Like, just drops the bomb on him. Like, the gods that we talked about in class are real. But Percy questions the existence of God. He doesn't believe in it, and he calls Greek mythology, quote unquote, stories. Chiron asks if Percy would want his existence to be questioned, and when Percy still doesn't bite, Chiron says immortal is still immortal, whether you believe it or not. All right.
Here we go.
Dropping knowledge. And then Mr. D is kind of a jerk through this entire time, and Percy learns that he is
Dionysus,
the god of wine, which sounds like a god I might want to meet. But he's kind of a jerk, so maybe not.
He's just grouchy because he's not allowed on Mount Olympus right now.
Yeah, he's been punished by his dad Zeus and his camp director at this special camp for demigods called Half-Blood Hill Camp.
Because babysitting children to shape you up. Like,
that's gotta be depressing for someone who's like, I just want to be up where the gods are supposed to be in Olympus.
Immortal. Yeah. I've been here for hundreds of years. Can I be done now?
It's summer camp. Right?
Yeah.
Whenever I think of summer camp right now, what I'm thinking of is Wet Hot American Summer, that movie with like Amy Poehler and Bradley Cooper.
Oh my gosh.
And so yes, this is special camp for demigods, and they call it the Half-Blood Hill Camp, which first off I was like, again, Harry Potter, Half-Blood Prince, Half-Blood Muggle again, and then I was also thinking like, True Blood.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm going to tap out a little bit. So Mount Olympus exists. Chiron is a centaur, and some of the children of mortals and gods, half-blood, stay at this camp. Enter Claire's Greek myth crash course. Go ahead, Claire.
All right, y'all. So for those of you who are not supreme nerds like me, and here's all you need to know if you've been confused about all the Greek stuff for the past couple of minutes. So the Greek gods are the children of the Titans. Their father was Kronos. Kronos was a bad dad. He ate his kids.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is Kronos the bad guy in the last Marvel movie?
Maybe? I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Oh, then I totally spoiled on that.
It's okay. I already knew. Okay. I'm on the internet. I know. It's been long enough.
All right. Continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So Kronos, he ate all his kids except Zeus, who Kronos' wife hid and Zeus' mother hid. Zeus grew up and he killed his dad and he freed his siblings because they're immortal. They don't die. So they were just kind of hanging out in his stomach forever. He cut up his dad and scattered his remains in the deepest pits of the underworld in a place called Tartarus. Tartarus is the worst place in the underworld. It's where the worst of the monsters are kept. Below the underworld, so like they describe it on Wikipedia like the earth is below the sky. So Tartarus is below the underworld like we are below the sky.
Wow.
Yeah. So then we have the Age of the Olympians, who are led by Zeus and his wife Hera. They are king and queen of the gods. And everyone else is part of the pantheon of gods, like Poseidon and Aphrodite. So we're all one big dysfunctional family. Everybody's related up there. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, they're always fighting. There's always drama.
It's like Thanksgiving.
It is. It's like Thanksgiving all the time. You just can't leave because we're immortal. We never die.
And just Thanksgivings every single day.
Right. We rehash the same old fights over and over
Give
and
me
over.
a turkey leg and some more mashed potatoes so I can deal with all this drama.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so Percy is considered to be undetermined, which means no one knows what god his father is. I'm sorry. This is actually really scandalous. So for now, he's staying in cabin 11, and there's a cabin for each Olympian, and there's 12, but there's no cabin for Hades for obvious reasons, because he's the god of the underworld.
This is Hades slander for sure. This is like, because like now the internet is like, Hades was a great guy, and everyone just didn't like him. And
Did you see Hercules the movie, voiced by James Woods? He was awful. Well, I mean,
he was
Hades
sassy and like fun.
His hair was on fire. He was cool, right?
Yeah.
So he gets Percy gets a tour of the cabin. He settles into his cabin, which is for Hermes, god of travelers, with the help of Loke, his counselor. He again meets Annabeth, who's the daughter of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Clarice, the daughter of Ares, and Ares is the god of war. And as you can imagine, Clarice is kind of mean.
Yeah,
she's like taking over like Nancy Bobo Fett. She's like the Nancy Bobo Fett of Half-Blood camp. Yeah. Ugh. Can't get away from those
She's
bullies.
like a brawny queen bee. Like the burliest of queen bees.
She's the burly version of
Regina George.
Exactly. So Percy and Annabeth have a run-in with her in the bathroom, and she actually tried to give Percy a swirly in the toilet. And again, I was like, what year is it? But if we're dealing with people who are demigods or gods, like, I guess they don't know what time it is either.
Well, they're mortal. They can die. They're
cool.
fine. Yeah, their concept of time is the same as ours. So we're
good. Thank you. I was about to be like, who does swirlies anymore? And I was like, is this an 80s movie? They
have
like Karate Kid or something. But instead of a swirly, water shoots up from the toilet into Clarice's face and blasts her and her little mean cronies back. Everything was soaked, including Annabeth, except for Percy. The bathroom incident spread across the camp fast.
Yes. So Percy learns more about this world from Annabeth, including that she's been there since she was young. I think she was 7. And she's been hoping to go on a quest soon. So when she came to the camp, she's never left. He learns about dinner and burning a small portion of the food to the gods as an offering. And then he was off to the campfire with the rest of the campers. The next day leads into a routine for Percy where he's learning ancient Greek from Annabeth and training with Luke. And apparently Luke is one of the best sword fighters in the camp. But in breaking Percy in, realizes that the new kid also has skill. Or is it a fluke? They don't know. He continues to spend time with his friend Grover and learns that Grover is hoping to get a searcher's license. But it would help him to tag along if Percy gets a quest. Because he needs another chance to prove himself. Because he's kind of screwed up twice now. Oops. I guess it's like experience on a resume. So yeah, you got to build your resume.
To become that searcher. Or to get that license.
Yeah. And they haven't given one out in a while. So he's trying to prove himself. He says that a previous quest didn't go well, and the person he was keeping an eye on, Talia, is now the pine tree that is protecting the borders of the camp. It turns out Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades made a deal to stop relationships with mortal women because their children were too powerful. So basically, they like subtly alluded to Hades' child being Hitler a little bit. I was like, okay, I guess. But Zeus broke that deal, and Hades sends monsters after Talia. And to take pity on his daughter, Zeus turned her into a pine tree. But Grover still feels bad about everything that happened. Percy asks him about Quest to the underworld, where Hades rules, because his mother is there. And Grover says no one has gone since the last, like, the old ancient Greek heroes, like Hercules and I think the original Perseus went. Maybe, or Jason, someone.
I didn't include all those names in the plot lines.
It's fine. It's okay. I know.
Yeah. All right. Percy becomes more acclimated to the camp during the capture of the flag event. The two teams were led by
Ares.
Led by Cabin Ares, supported by
Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus.
And Cabin Athena, supported by Apollo and Hermes. I got that one. Percy gets a helmet, shield, and sword for the sword. That sounded weird. Sword.
We're pronouncing all the letters.
For the game, and was placed by the creek as border control and was warned about Clarice's sword. And so let the games begin. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's get summer camp game going, and everyone gets shields and helmets and swords. They can't
maim anyone. It's in the rules. No one's allowed to maim. We're fine.
Well, until Clarice and her little front, and every time I say Clarice, I'm thinking of Silence of the Lambs. Clarice.
I mean, you're not far off.
He ends up getting stalked by Clarice and the others from Cabin Ares. He got pushed into the creek, and his tormentors laugh. But he is awakened by the water and fought off them all. And it turns out it was planned because during that time, Cab and Athena captured the flag while the others were poking around and making fun of and messing with Percy. Annabeth is the one who planned it, and it turns out Percy may in fact be determined, right? Yes. A hellhound comes, but Percy washes away injuries in the water. Duh, he comes out of the water dry like he's Aquaman. Just kidding. His dad is Poseidon. Wait, did I say that weird?
Poseidon?
Yeah, okay, right. I said it right.
Yeah, you're good.
All these names,
confidence.
Man. Poseidon, Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail.
Perseus.
Jackson, son of the sea god.
I thought we had that one.
No, I lost it. And then my thoughts at this point in the book, I was like, didn't they know he was like Poseidon? There's like a lot of water issues going on here. Like the bathroom, the water fountain at the beginning of the book. Yeah. I'm like, obviously him and water are like, besties, right? Oh, we can talk about that in our discussion. How him and water are friends.
Yes.
All right, why don't you take the next?
So this is a 2-chapter combo. I'm offered a quest and I ruin a perfectly good bus.
I hate when that happens.
Right? Percy gets an upgrade to Cabin Poseidon, where he's all by himself because he is the only child of Poseidon. And he indicates he feels lonely without his friends from Cabin 11. So he's finally feeling like he was at home in the camp and he had a routine and he had friends. And now he's like, no, you're isolated again. So he felt like everyone was talking about him behind his back, and his training moved him working one-on-one with Luke because everyone was kind of afraid of him because, like, he has more powers than everybody. He's stronger. Annabeth still taught him in the morning, but Percy noticed that she was distracted, muttering things like, quest, Poseidon, need to make a plan. And Percy felt the wrath of the campers who resented him because they left him an article from the newspaper headlines, boy and mother still missing after freak accident. The moral world found the car and no Sally or Percy, but his stepfather, Smelly Gabe, indicated in the article that Percy had aggressive tendencies, and so it seems like he'd been a person of interest in the case. That night, Percy had a horrible nightmare and woke up to Grover saying Mr. D wanted to see him. Percy thought it was a crime that he existed because Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades deal, so he expected to be summoned. Turns out, instead, Percy was offered a quest.
Can we just pause for a second and talk about, like, the elephant in the room?
Yes.
How many... So, Zeus and Hera are married.
Oh, this is the biggest, like, gossip this is the biggest open secret ever.
But it's just, like, everyone is, like... I love how there's, like, 2 cabins that are empty because one is, like, the goddess of marriage and one is, like, the goddess of something else and they don't believe in...
Artemis, like, took a vow of, like, virginity forever.
Yeah, and I'm like, interesting. The only empty cabins for people who don't believe in that are ladies. And then, like, some people have more kids than others and, like, they're all related to each other. And then some people don't know who their dad is. I was just like, this is for tweens? I was like, do we want them to know this?
Well, that's Greek myth, though. Like, Zeus is out here banging everybody. Like, this is just how it is.
And I didn't think there was going to be any scandal. Tisk, tisk. Well, I was wrong. All right. So Poseidon and Zeus are battling over Zeus's missing master bolt, whatever the heck that is.
Yeah, so that thing is what all of his thunderbolts are, like, molded from. So, like, it's the original copy of lightning, I guess. I don't know.
I got a quote for you.
Yeah.
Cool. In fact, it is presumed that Percy is the one who stole it during the winter solstice, so he should find it and return it to Zeus so there isn't an all-out war or chaos in the world. Before this happens, Percy must consult with the oracle. He goes into a room with a mummy, as I understood it.
Yes.
And asks about his destiny, and this is the prophecy that he receives.
It's on page 141 if you'd like to read along.
Yes. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. You shall be betrayed by the one who calls you a friend. Ooh, scandal. And you shall fail to save what matters most in the end.
Ooh.
That's some serious stuff.
Yeah. That's some heavy stuff for some 12-year-olds.
Chiron asks exactly what the oracle said, but Percy only gives partial information, but the information he gives is enough to start a plan, where he'll go find Hades. However, there are a number of monsters after Percy, because Hades probably assuming that Poseidon was Sunda's son. So Percy gets excited because he craves revenge. Hades being the source of losing his mother to the Minotaur, and apparently his dad, who's never claimed him, now needs Percy. So off Percy goes to fight Hades, get the bull back, and return it to Olympus by the summer solstice. 10 days from now, NBD. No big deal.
We got this. It's okay.
But here's the thing. Percy can't fly because Zeus is the god of the sky. So he must travel on ground with the help of some friends, specifically Annabeth. Grover and Annabeth.
Yeah.
The gang's all together, otherwise known as Harry, Ron, and Hermione.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sorry.
It's always trios.
Yeah, trios, yeah.
Always trios.
And both of these people have wished to go on a quest. Annabeth just wants to be able to leave the camp and see the world, and Grover's trying to prove himself. So the next day, they'll be dropped off at the bus terminal in Manhattan.
So the camp provides them with mortal money and some gold drachmas.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
notice how I threw that one to you, so I wouldn't even have to pretend to try to pronounce that.
Yeah, so they have, that's ancient Greek money that they would use in interactions with other ancient Greek characters.
Cool.
Yeah. Annabeth has a Yankees hat that provides her invisibility because, Harry Potter-esque. We got to have an invisibility item.
And of course, that would be the Yankees. But
and Grover's got his fake feet because he's a goat. And we got to go out in public, so we got to wear fake feet.
You got to wear your fake feet.
And Percy has his pen, which turns into a sword because why not? Luke gives Percy some shoes with wings, but Percy can't wear them because he's the son of the sea. He's warned by Charon not to do that, or Chiron. So Grover has them on and can fly sometimes. And off they go. As they enter the bus station, Percy sees a missing poster for himself, and he rips it down before the others can see. They get on the bus, and nearly immediately Grover has a bad feeling. So he has kind of a sense for monsters. As part
he
of him.
can read other people's emotions, and he can smell monsters.
Yeah,
so and he can talk to animals.
Yeah. That's why they send him to look after the half-blood children when they find them.
Mm-hmm.
They have the little satyrs in most of the schools. They say in the book to keep track to see if there's any little half-blood kids to take to camp before the monsters get him. So Grover's bad feeling. There are the three of them are all the way in the back, but they see Mrs. Dodds get on board.
No, not Mouth. Don't make us do Mouth.
And two other demon grandmas, because we can't have just one. We have to have a trio.
Ugh.
They sit in the front of the bus so no one can get off the bus. They haven't even left New York, and there's already monsters after Percy and his posse.
Seriously.
And they're the worst of the worst. They are the ones Hades sends to torture everybody.
Great.
If you really messed up and Hades, you're really on his bad side, he sends the Furies after you.
Yeah, yikes.
So there you go. They have to come up with a plan. Percy puts on the invisibility hat and moves towards the front, where all the demon ladies are. They're starting to walk towards the back now. They're trying to corner them in.
Yeah.
And they turned into those bat things, so they turned into the Furies.
Did you like my description?
I did. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Annabeth pulled out her bronze knife, and Grover readies a can to throw because he can't do anything else. While Percy works the bus driver at the front. He pulls the emergency brake and fights the grandma bats with his sword called the Riptide.
That's his sword. It's called the Riptide.
Because he's fancy.
Because he's the son of the sea.
Yeah, he's got his fancy sea sword.
Oh my god.
As they get off the bus, lightning strikes the bus and it blows up. Their bags with their money and food were on board, so we're just starting from square one.
All right, so next chapter we visit the Garden Gnome Emporium, and it's
upstate New York.
Oh my gosh. Great. They walk through the woods and come across a 2-lane road with Auntie M's EM''S Garden Gnome Emporium. They smell greasy, delicious food, and they're hungry, so they enter the Emporium, although Grover says he smells monsters. They come across Auntie M, as they describe, as a Middle Eastern woman who's covered from head to toe, and they give her a sob story about being
orphans?
The circus
orphans or something. I'm like, what cliche haven't we hit?
It's a classic. P.T. Barnum treating everyone like trash? It's still happening? Oh my god. And so she's like, sure, I'll bring you some food. Come on in. And so she brings them a whole bunch of food and they devour it. Percy even has to remind himself to breathe, but then he hears a hissing noise. It's like, what's that? No, it doesn't matter, whatever. She has to get a photo of them, but she doesn't have a camera, which is a little weird, right?
Yeah.
All right, so she's not Annie M like the lady from The Wizard of Oz. She's Auntie the letter M, which stands for Medusa. Get the F out. I mean, a lady with a head full of moving snakes is creepy AF. They fight her, but they can't look her in the eye, especially Percy. You'll get turned in one of those little stone gnomes, and she's got a whole emporium of them.
Yeah.
And so Percy uses Riptide, and they get her head, which is wrapped in a plastic bag, which
they
is
double bag it.
They double bag it, which is a little Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah,
and Percy goes through and finds money in the store, and then he gets a mail slip for her head. and shifts it to Mount Olympus.
Because it's the Empire State Building. So he literally addresses it to the gods of Mount Olympus. 600 Empire State Building, whatever, New York. It's like, oh my gosh. Wow. This kid. Can you imagine being the postal worker, like, handling that package? Yeah. Like, what is this? Like, this is weird.
Okay, this is when there's, like, less information, but we're already at, like, 50 minutes. So, there's a lot of detail. Yeah. So, why don't you take the next... We get advice from a poodle and the plunge to the death. Yeah. And then I'll do the cheeseburgers, and we'll just have to...
We'll fill in some stuff.
Yeah.
I'll hop in wherever we need it. So the next chapter we get advice from a poodle. Because, again, normal. They camp in the woods. They're going to sleep in shifts. And at first, Percy and Grover talk more about Grover's plan to search for Pan, who is the, like, satyr. Like, he is the god of the forest and, like, nature and stuff. He protects all of nature. But he's been missing for, like, thousands of years, which is why our environmental situation is not great. Pan is disappointed in all of us.
He still is.
Yeah, he's disappointed. So, but searchers never return when they're looking for Pan, which is weird. Why would Grover want to go on such a search? Well, he feels it's his life duty. Yeah, he wants to go find his grandpa goat somewhere in the woods. I don't know.
He's got his life's why, so he's good.
Yeah, he's good.
He's got his purpose.
So Percy falls asleep and wakes up to breakfast and Grover's new friend, a poodle. Apparently, Grover can talk to animals, and the poodle is missing. So if they go and turn in the pup, they'll get the reward money, which they can take a train to Denver. Got a good plan. We have a plan again, people.
Like, what are the odds that, drunken wooden gods can just find missing animals?
Yeah.
And so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Grover's a good guy. He's a good guy. Yeah. Animals like him, you know? So next we go into I Plunged My Death and Become a Known Fugitive. Because, again, normal 12-year-old stuff. So they have a layover in St. Louis on the train, and they go to see the Gateway Arch and have some trouble on the viewing platform. So this lady, she turns into this monster that has this giant dog that breathes fire. And I forget what her name is. It's Chimera, but I think that's not how it's pronounced. Chimera.
I don't know.
Excuse me. Something like
Tomato.
that.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Data, data.
Give me those time
measure.
People. At me, it's fine. So he jumps out of the way. They burn a hole in the bottom of the observation deck because the dog spits fire now. It was a Chihuahua, and then it turned into big.
So this lady had a Chihuahua, and then they both turned into like crazy monsters.
Big monsters.
Yeah.
And it breathes fire. So he jumps through a hole in the bottom of the arch into the Missouri River because he's the god of the sea. The water will protect him. And all sorts of media folk and everybody are on the site when Percy comes out of the water. He talks to this little river spirit in the water who tells him, no, you have to go to Santa Monica Pier. That's where you got to go when we're out west. Like, they knew they had to go west, but they're like, where?
But
I don't know.
Don't worry about everything happening here.
Details.
You're a fugitive. Keep it moving.
Yeah, we got to keep going. So now he's labeled a fugitive because they think he blew up the Gateway Arch.
Yeah, which that would be probably labeled a terrorist attack.
An act of terror. Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, no, not at all. And certainly Smelly Gabe isn't helping by participating in, quotes and articles and things like that, saying
he's
that
just slandering Percy.
He's a bad kid, yeah.
Because he blew up his Camaro. He's bitter.
So as you can see, we're like full on into this quest, and it's just like each chapter is just jam-packed full of I can't even talk.
Just
there's so much
things.
stuff. So much stuff. So next, a god buys us cheeseburgers, and we take a zebra to Vegas.
Hey,
cool.
As someone who's seen a zebra in Kansas before, it's not a stretch.
Okay, cool.
Just saying.
So when they get to this diner, they call home, and it's like
it's via a rainbow.
So it's like Insta Messenger for like
it's Iris Message.
Yeah. So it's like the Facebook for like demigods.
Yeah. It's like Snapchat for demigods.
FaceTime.
FaceTime. Look at that. This is pre-FaceTime, people.
Yeah. So he's so glad to be able to talk to Luke, and he kind of vents about the trip and about the dreams he's been having, and he kind of refers to Annabeth, and Luke kind of is like, oh, she's like a sister. I've known her forever. But it kind of seems like Annabeth has a crush on Luke, and so Percy doesn't want to tell her anything about what they discussed. So when they go inside, Ares, the god of war, shows up.
And it's like, I'll pay for your meal because you're homeless and have no money.
And yeah, let me help some kids out. And he goes, but if I'm going to help you, you have to help me.
Yep.
And so he sends them to a water park called the Waterland.
Original.
Yeah.
Original.
Where he's left behind his shield.
And he won't tell them why.
And isn't it the what's the love ride called? Like
the Tunnel of Love.
The Tunnel of Love. Thank you. I've clearly never been on one.
Yeah.
And so it's like the park is no longer in existence, like it's not operating. And he took his girlfriend there, who is
Aphrodite.
So
that's like one of the biggest scandals. She's the goddess of love.
No, but she's who's upset?
She's married to Hephaestus.
Okay, see, I know.
He's the god of the forges, and he's not very pretty, and she's very pretty. And so she cheats on him all the time with Ares. Oh, yeah, it's the worst. Everybody's the worst. It's fine. Again, dysfunctional family.
So he was like making out with his girlfriend in the fake tunnel of love, and he left behind a shield. So he's like, go ahead and go get it for me. So the three go there, and when they get in there, they realize it's a trap, and there's all these like robot spiders that come in.
Yeah.
And Annabeth is scared of spiders, and then they use water to kind of help them get out of the situation and get the shield that Ares has left behind, and he says that they have to bring him. And so, but what's happening is it's being filmed and being broadcasted back to Mount Olympus because the ugly god, what's his name? Is setting up Aphrodite for who she's cheating on. So it's like
he was trying to shame his wife.
He's like the hosted cheater.
Honestly, he's trying to shame his wife into like not doing this anymore. It's like, she's been doing this for thousands of years, buddy. You think she's gonna change now? You can't change her.
And so it's like the kids on TV rather than Ares,
because it was like a trap. They were it was like the golden net trap. He was trying to trap him like he did back in the day.
Yeah. So they go back, and Ares tells them that he has a ride for him now and gives them a couple of the golden
drachmas.
Thank you. And they have a ride via Kindness International Humane Zoo Transport. And all of those words are incorrect description.
Except zoo and transport.
I mean, those might not even be accurate. So they get aboard this, essentially a van or something.
It's like a big truck.
And it has a white lion, a zebra, and some other animal that I don't even think Percy could determine necessarily, like some sort of, had antlers or something like that.
It was like a weird gazelle or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And they're just like so mistreated.
Oh,
like they have the wrong food. Like the zebra has meat and the lion has like
turnips.
Yeah. And it's like, that's not right. And
there's gum in the zebra's mane.
It's just like they're just horribly treated. And so Grover, because he can communicate with animals, the three of them through that, like, get the food to the right people, and they try to, make them more comfortable. And then when they arrive in Vegas, they free all those animals. So, I mean, that's very Vegas. Like, I'm just driving a zebra, right? It's like, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. When they arrive in Vegas, they stay in the most fun place ever. It's called the Lotus Casino. They shower, they eat, they play games, and they meet people from the 1970s.
Yeah.
Who apparently never left. So it turns out this hotel or casino is the place that sucks time away from them. And they were actually there for 5 days. And if you've forgotten, there's a 10-day limit, like until the summer solstice. Yeah. So they just wasted 5 days
in a casino,
which sounds like fun. But here's the thing, like, isn't that just like a great metaphor for casinos anyways?
Yeah.
Like, you go in and you can't see the outdoors. You have no idea. You have no sense of time.
And it's a
you spend
reference
more
to
money.
Greek mythology too, because like the lotus eaters, like that's in the Odyssey. So the lotus, if you eat the lotus, like time slows down and like you waste time and like you fall into like a weird drunken like haze. Like you just kind of stay on this island if you keep eating the lotus. So the Lotus Casino, perfect hybrid.
Nerd alert. So that screws up their timeline, as you might imagine, and they get out of the place because they have a date with Hades.
Yep, so we're heading west, people. We're still going.
Yes.
They hitch a ride in a cab. They take their, like, preloaded casino card that's got $1 million on it.
Yeah, like it's infinity money.
Yeah, so they're like, here, cabbie, you can have a tip, too. Like, get as fast as you can to Santa Monica Pier.
That's
so they're
amazing.
heading there. That's where Poseidon wanted them to go. Mm-hmm. Percy dives into the water and gets some gifts from a Nereid.
I don't
I don't
know.
remember. We Googled it and I don't remember. Oops. Anyway, she's a little
stamp.
Yeah. She's a little sea nymph, and she's got some presents. She's coming on behalf of his father. So these gifts are pearls, but no gift comes without a price, is what Annabeth warns him after he surfaces. So afterwards, they take the bus to West Hollywood and start looking for the address that they found in Auntie M's, where she had been shipping these statues to Hades. They stole a packing slip, and they're like, all right, we have the address for the underworld. Let's go. So as they're walking down the street, they see the TV, and Smelly Gabe is talking to Barbara Walters about Percy. Ouch. Some sob story, how he's always been a delinquent and he killed his wife and whatever.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. A bunch of lies. So they're jumped by some kids, but break away and run into a store called Krusty's Waterbed Palace. Because we're just in cheesy LA land. It's the 70s.
Why would you want a crusty bed? Can I just
ask?
Of
any kind. That is disgusting.
Kind. Like, no thanks.
Like, crusty and water does not seem to fit, but like, okay.
Crusty water, is that like moldy
is that like the crusty crab?
Touche.
So, why did they go in there? We don't know. They're like, we need to escape these thugs that are hurting us. These 12-year-olds that are beating up other 12-year-olds.
These white rich kids that are beating us up.
Yeah.
God.
So Krusty's a raptor-looking guy, over 7 feet tall, and he ties Annabeth and Grover to beds and starts stretching them because he needs a perfect fit.
That's really, like, specific.
Yeah. 7 feet, or is it 7 feet? Yeah.
He's 7 feet tall,
but it's like a 6-foot bed.
6-foot bed.
Yeah. That must have been a myth that I was not familiar with because I don't remember it at all. So he's weird, as we've established.
Yeah.
Percy chats with Krusty, just chats him up and convinces him to show him how the bed fitting works and uses Riptide to make some adjustments. He cuts the ropes for his friends and they run out.
So now Annabeth does obedience school is the next chapter, and this is where they finally head to the land of the dead, and they bribe the guardian to get in across the river Styx. And inside there are three spots that you can go, including
the Fields of Asylum, the Asphodel Fields.
Yes.
And then the Torture Punishment Land.
And that's what we're calling the last one because we couldn't find the name for it.
Yeah, Google failed me.
And then there's the
three-headed dog named Cerberus.
Thank you. I should have just had you read this one because I can't do all the names.
It's okay.
So that three-headed dog is in the entryway, and you either go into the place where, like, good people go.
Yeah, so...
then you go into, like... They describe the fields, like, as... you're at a concert and there's no music and it's in the dark and it just feels like a scene out of The Walking Dead with just a bunch of zombies and things like that.
So like that's the default. You go there if you don't want to try to get to like the better place.
Yeah.
You can go to a trial and you go before a bunch of judges. They said like Shakespeare sometimes is a judge and like
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson and someone else. So then you can go to like the cool place where like there's islands and like paradise.
Yeah. And then you can be tortured forever.
Yeah.
Or you could just be in the in-between, right? Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah, the in-between is default, and then if you want something better or worse, you can kind of take a gamble and you end up in one.
And so they have to
get past Cerberus.
The Cerberus. And so that's where Annabeth has learned how to get the dog. Like, do you want to play with this ball? Who's a good boy? I have a ball in my backpack. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Right?
Yeah. So she gets the dog to sit and like play with the ball with her and like distracts the dog. And like the dog, I felt so bad when she was walking away because the dog was sad and wanted
the dog
to come
was like,
back.
I'm a good boy. I'm 12 out of 10 good boy. And I want someone to play with me. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. I got 3 heads, but I'm a good boy.
He's like the dog and Up.
Aww.
He's like, I'm a good boy.
I'm a good boy. Squirrel.
Exactly.
And so this sort of leads into, like, because she uses that obedience, they're able to gain entry. And so that leads into the next 2 chapters. We find out the truth, sort of. I battle my jerk relative, which I'll let Claire take this. And I already kind of mentioned the fields from Walking Dead.
Yeah, so they walk through the fields, like the regular fields, because they're going to go find Hades' throne room. And they have to go through, like, some of the lands to get back there. They go by the pit of Tartarus. At least they think it's Tartarus as they're walking by. And Grover gets, like, pulled towards it with his magic shoes, which is scary. His flying shoes, if we all remember, he's wearing them.
Yes.
So he's, like, getting pulled towards his pit, and they have to, like, pull him back so they can go meet Hades, which is weird.
I'm glad you said that because that's a really key point later.
Later, yeah. Oops. Yeah.
I didn't have that in my notes, but good job, Claire.
I remember. So
thanks, nerd.
Yeah, so you're welcome. So they're walking to meet Hades. And at this point, they have an audience with him. It's summertime, so his wife Persephone, they wish she was there. But in the summer, Persephone lives with her mom up in the Olympus. And in the winter, she's with Hades. And they're like, I wish Queen Persephone was here because she probably tempers his temper a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And he's a very hot-headed
tempering that
guy.
temper.
Yes.
Cooling down that fiery hair.
Yeah. So at this point, we learn that Hades is also missing his magical object.
Which is?
The Helm of Darkness.
The hell is that? Is it like Kylo Ren's mask or something? Like, what are we doing?
It's like Annabeth's invisibility cap, like with the volume turned up. So he can walk through walls. He becomes a shadow. Yeah, it's crazy.
He's like Magneto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just bringing in every single reference of anything that I can think of. X-Men, yes. Star Wars.
Exactly. So he tells Percy that if he wants his mom back, he has to go find the Helm of Darkness.
So his mom isn't.
Yeah, she's like being
dead.
held.
Yeah.
Like Hades saved her, like he snapped his fingers when she was about to be killed, and like she disappeared in golden dust instead of dying.
And then poofed probably down into the underworld.
Yeah, right, in the underworld. Like because he knows a hostage is worth value. So he's like, listen, I have a bargaining chip, you have a bargaining chip. Like,
let's do business, right?
Yeah,
like,
so
let's negotiate.
At the same time, we find out that Ares put the Master Bolt in Percy's backpack.
That's Zeus's original
the lightning bolt
thingamajiggy.
That he needs. The whole problem started with this being stolen. And Hades didn't tell anyone that his helm was stolen because the gods wouldn't believe him anyway. And they're like, no one likes me. He's like, no one likes me. And he's trying to start drama anyway. He's always grabbing for power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we find out the Master Bolt has been in Percy's backpack since Ares saw them.
Yeah, so that was in Denver.
Yeah, way back when.
Yeah.
So it's like the pen. It only triggered, like, it only showed up in the backpack when they entered the underworld. Yeah. He, like, modified the magic or whatever.
And I just remember in that chapter, like, Percy saying that his backpack seemed to be getting heavier and heavier and heavier and not realizing that someone might have put something in there.
Right. So he had the Master Bolt the whole time.
Yeah.
And that also makes him look like he stole it because Hades like, look, you have it. You totally stole it. And
he's like, no, I didn't.
I've been framed. Why does everyone think I'm terrible when I'm not? Everyone else is terrible.
And Hades is like, same.
Same, bro.
Same, bro.
Yeah. So Percy
has to get the helm? Do they have to find it?
That's the new mission is they have to go find Hades' helm for him and all that stuff. But Percy, he has those pearls that the Naiad gave him in the river. And the pearls basically get you out of the underworld safely, but he only has 3. So he has to choose if he wants to go, if Annabeth wants to go, Grover or his mom. So Percy has a really tough choice. He chooses to leave his mom because he knows that she's not dead. Yeah. And if he gets the helm back, Hades will give him his mom.
Yeah.
So, yeah. True hero right here, guys. Like, he made
he's only 12.
I know. Rough life. So they crack those pearls on the ground and it launches them out into the ocean and they end up back in the Santa Monica Pier area and the Coast Guard picks them up and Percy like wills himself to be wet so like they don't think anything weird's going on. Yeah. They're like,
I will myself to be soaked.
They're like, listen, kid, we got bigger problems going on right now because Hades had caused like an earthquake because he got really mad and like shook everything and it was
dramatic.
Everybody's dramatic. It's fine. So we're just causing natural disasters on the low key. And then they got to get the Master Bolt back to Zeus by the deadline. They have 1 day left.
So, Clara, question from the audience.
What's that?
I don't remember what happened to the helm. Like, where was that? Because that was missing from Hades.
Right. So, like, Hades never told anybody. So, coincidentally, Ares just happened to have both of these magical objects on his person.
Sounds illegal.
Yeah. Well, he's technically not supposed to have them, but there we are. So,
he is the god of war, so he's always starting shit.
So, someone snuck down into Hades' throne room and stole the Helm of Darkness and somehow got it to Ares. We don't know who did that yet. So Ares has it. So on the beach, after the Coast Guard picks them up, Ares appears and he's like, hey, kid, like, what's up?
What's up, bro?
And Percy's really mad because he's like, you set me up. Like, you gave me the Master Bolt. You had it in that backpack the whole freaking time.
Yeah.
And so he battles Ares in a sword battle, which is like, why would you challenge a god to a sword battle? But
the god of war, too.
Yeah, exactly. So Percy's pushing his luck. He's like, you know what? We're just going to go all in on this. And we're just going to come down swinging, literally.
Yeah.
But he's able to defeat Ares. He nicks his ankle, and Ares starts bleeding God's immortal blood. And he turns into his true form and goes away in all of a hissy. And then the Helm of Darkness just happens to roll up in the tide. So Ares had it the whole time.
Rude. And so then it's going to go back to Hades,
Yeah, so
right?
they gave it to the Furies, or the kindly ones, and they take it back to Hades. And, like, Lord Hades owes him a favor, so his mom will be released.
Yeah, yay! And then they have to get that Master Bolt back to Zeus. So now that the Hades thing is taken care of, thanks Ares for being a jerk. Yeah. So then that leads us into the final chapters. I settle my tab, and the prophecy comes true. So what we discover is that this entire time, Percy has been seen as a fugitive, but they have this thing called the mist. It's like the Men in Black, almost like where you kind of erase people's memory or
modify it.
Modify it. And so the mist actually, mortal people tend to see things differently.
Yeah, they mentioned like we're stubborn and we see what we want to see.
Yeah.
So like we will do anything to reason our way out of something weird.
Well, but in this case, the mist was manipulated so that the mortal people would believe that Percy had been kidnapped
by Ares.
So he is no longer seen as a fugitive. And then he goes to Olympus, gets to meet Zeus and his dad. Hey, what's up? What's up, Dad? What's up, guy who thought I stole his bolt? Here's your bolt so you can make some thunderbolts. Get that thunder and lightning going.
Yeah, like the most powerful weapon in the world is returned.
By a 12-year-old.
12-year-old and his friends.
And then, yay, he's reunited with his mom because he did return to the helm, and Hades isn't so bad.
Yeah, and he had a little chat with his dad, and his dad's like, your mom's at home, like, you can go back and see her.
Yeah.
Because he's back in New York, he's back at, Mount Olympus is found on the top of the Empire State Building, so
convenient.
They're back. Yeah, super convenient. So Percy lives up the street.
Yeah, and my favorite part is that because he mailed the Medusa head to Mount Olympus at the Empire State Building, and it got returned to sender.
Security's like, what the hell is this address? We can't do anything with this.
Return to sender. So the double-wrapped Medusa head is with Percy and his mom, and he leaves it with his mom, and conveniently she uses it on Smelly Gabe and becomes a famous, successful artist because of this statue that, quote,
so
unquote,
realistic.
wink, 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 that she made.
Yeah.
Because Medusa, when you stare into her eyes, here's the thing, you cut off the head, doesn't eliminate the power for her to turn people into stone. So Smelly Gabe looked at her, turned into stone.
You're done.
Sally no longer has to deal with Gabe. She has her son back, and she's now famous and successful.
Yes.
Because she's had a hard life. So win, win, and win.
Yeah, everybody's winning.
So then Percy has a decision to make about returning to camp, returning to school. So he goes back to the camp for the rest of the summer. He gets a hero's welcome, and he's back with all his friends, and that includes Luke, who is not on this quest. And so Luke takes him out to the woods to have one last monster kill, like good friends do before
we return home for the school year.
Yep. And then Luke tries to,
kill him. Casual.
We're going to keep it cash. We're going to go in the woods.
Just bros being bros in the woods.
We're just going to, just go out here and do what guys do out in the woods and,
kill some monsters.
Or kill you.
Yeah.
And so, can you explain what Luke's deal is?
So Luke was a double agent the whole time.
Oh my god.
So Luke was always like really disillusioned with his father. He's like, oh my gosh, my dad's the worst. Like he abandoned me, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't care about me, blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
Well,
Hermes has a lot
though.
of kids. I mean, he's valid at that sense. And he's like, the gods don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So his whole thing is he wants to bring back Kronos, who we talked about at the top. He's like the father of the gods. He's the Titan.
Stomach-eating guy.
Yeah, he's the kid-eating big guy who tried to kill Zeus and everybody. So, and that Zeus ended up killing him and throwing him in the pits of Tartarus and all that.
Yeah.
So they think he's rising, and Luke's like, I'm going to try to bring him back. I'm his servant. I was the one that stole the lightning bolt at the solstice. I was the one that stole the helm of darkness and got it with Ares.
So Ares was framed.
Yes, Ares was framed in all of this coincidentally, but he's not entirely innocent because he's like, I want some power, so let's shake some stuff up and cause a war.
Yeah.
Why not?
Because he's the god of war, so that's what I'm about.
Good for business. Yeah.
Well, and I think at this point, what we've discovered is that the prophecy does come true because it says, you shall go to the west and face the god who has turned. They get all the way out to Santa Monica, and they have to face Ares, who has turned. You shall find what was stolen and see it safely return. That's both the bolt and the helm. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend, Luke, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end. And that's when he does not decide to save his mom.
Yes.
But because he returned the helm.
Also, he couldn't save his friendship with Luke. He couldn't save Luke. Luke tried to kill him. So Luke tried to kill him with, like, a scorpion. Like, that's really, badass.
That's gross.
Like, ew. Like, no.
Get out of here with that.
Yeah, but Annabeth saves him again. He gets more, like, nectar stuff that tastes like chocolate chip cookies. And chill up in the big house for a while.
And then he'll be fine.
Yeah. He decides to stay for the summer, and Annabeth decides to go home. She tries to go home with her dad and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm sure this all carries over into the next story and the second book and the third book and the fourth book and the fifth book. But there's a lot going on here. Yeah. Lots of plot. Yes. Lots of action. I'm disappointed to hear that the movie didn't turn out so good because it could have been interesting.
Good.
And so, I'd be interested. So what did you think in terms of friendship for this book?
I think that there's a lot of good messages because there's mixed gender friendship in this book, and I like that. And, like, you kind of see the evolution of Percy and Annabeth becoming friends. Like, they're not really friends at first, and, like, Annabeth is like, oh, it's because our parents were never friends. Blah, blah, blah. Like, Poseidon and Athena don't get along, whatever. But they show that, like, you can rise above your family situation and, like, you can be friends with people that are not like you.
And I don't think that we do see a lot of mixed gendered friendships in the media, that there's always, like, this focus on romantic relationships, that they must like each other. And that wasn't the case. In fact, like I said before, it seemed like she liked Luke, and so that might be, like she has a crush on someone else. Well, he turned out to be a horrible person, but...
Yeah. Well, she has ties with Luke. We didn't really talk about it in the recap, but Luke and her and Talia were the group that Grover couldn't save the first time.
Yeah, so they do have connection, and Luke and Annabeth are also the ones that haven't really left the camp. No. And so... what does she know? Because there aren't that many other options.
Yeah. And then Percy comes rolling in and like
hey. But it's like building a relationship, but also at the same time, she, I think, was looking at him as, if he is one of the top 3 gods' sons, that she might be able to get a quest and get out of there. Yeah. So in a way, she started the friendship as something where it was like she could get something out of the relationship with Percy. And then I would say through all these particular, events where they were in all these stressful situations and saved each other and helped each other, then you start to really build these bonds. And I imagine their friendship hopefully continues in the other books.
They're besties.
But, like, Grover is also, like, a friend that... And it's interesting, like, this idea that, Percy felt like he had to protect Grover, but it was Grover who was actually there to keep tabs on Percy. Yeah. And to me, when I was reading it, it was like... I was trying to remember. It was like she was wisdom. Yes. He was, like, bravery. Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember...
Grover's like the heart.
The heart, exactly. Yeah, so in a way, it's almost like what the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man are looking for, right? Like, it's a collaboration. Or, again, it reminded me of Harry Potter, right? Hermione... well, actually, what I was thinking of was that Percy would have been Gryffindor. Yep. Annabeth would have been Ravenclaw, and Grover would have been Hufflepuff.
Yep, 100%. Luke's a Slytherin.
And Luke is a Slytherin! Oh my god!
It fits.
Oh my god, it totally fits.
Do you know how much crossover stuff is out there between those 2 book series? Like, everybody on the internet loves to just cross those over all the time.
They're shipping the Percy and the Potters. Is that
Oh, we're just, like, making crossover content. So, like, they'll do, like, ooh, we're in this world, but it's, like, we have Percy Jackson characters, but at Hogwarts kind of deal. Like, oh, they fit perfectly in a little house.
No, we just need to move, like, the gods over to True Blood World, and then we got it'd be perfect.
Our new series.
Well, and so I thought that was really interesting, too, is that, like, it seemed like he was always moving because he was always getting kicked out, and he didn't know his dad, and he was away from his mom, and so he didn't have a lot of connections. He was able to make a connection with that Latin teacher who seemed to believe in him, and then we later learn is Chiron. So it's like he believed in him because he felt like he was going to be a determined demigod, right?
Well, like, he thought he fit the prophecy because Chiron knows the prophecy.
Yeah. So like, he's like looking to make that happen. Yeah. And I think that when he gets to the camp, it's like his friend Grover, who he's known for like a year, is there. So he has someone
Grover is my oldest friend, and I've only known him a year.
Yeah, that's well, and then he gets there, and then there's always like some mean people, and they like push him, and there's other people who are just like trying to get to know him or figure him out. And then he even says, like, when he is determined to be Poseidon and he moves to that cabin, that he feels lonely and he's miserable because he's no longer around other people. And so I think that goes to show that his life was sort of without these connections. And then when he had them, and then they were sort of taken away even in the smallest form, that it was even more problematic for him. It's almost like he was given a taste of what it's like to have this human connection and then taken away because people were afraid of him or that he had more powers or whatever the case was.
Right. Yeah.
That was sad.
Yeah, but Grover stuck with him the whole time, though. Like, Grover was always his friend, and so did Annabeth. Like, even though he was in that time of isolation, he always had those two. Like, Annabeth kept teaching him Greek, and like,
Well, but Grover also, he was also the ticket. Percy was the ticket for Grover to get out. So I would like to see those relationships continue because I want to see them when. Well, at this point, Grover's going to get his searcher's license, so he's going to be off looking for Pan.
Yeah.
And then it's indicated that they never return, but I have a feeling Grover's going to return. That's just that's my prophecy.
We can't traumatize the children like that.
Yeah, well, I'm like, why would you introduce a best friend and then never bring him back? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the ultimate buddy quest movie, right? And then you have Annabeth, and I can see, like, it's just like a good collaboration. And they all have, what they have in common, though, is that they don't have these family connections, like this whole demigod god world, mortal versus immortal. Like, the gods are just playing with whatever, and it's like they get to do whatever they want, and it really, like, satisfies their needs, whatever they might be, war, lust, wisdom, whatever the case is, and then it's like no consideration for the impact that it has on children and their ability to connect with other people. And I was just like, I can't believe this is for kids because there's so much scandal in the Greek world, but I think it, people talk about like attachment theory, whether or not you have like that caregiver in the first 2 years of your life, and I know that some people might say you can't make those connections later, like the first 2 years of life may or may not have an impact later in life. Right. But I feel like we might not be able to pinpoint what that impact is, but I do think like that world they live in where there's like, they go to camp and there's more people in this cabin because their dad's been around more than this cabin, and then that cabin's always empty. Why do you even have that cabin if she's like committed a vow of virginity? Like, what do you even
Because we don't want to disrespect her.
We gotta respect. But it's also like, maybe the
gods are very fickle.
Yeah,
like, they're very fragile creatures.
Well, but it's like, but all these things that you need your children at some point. Like Poseidon needed, they needed Percy to complete this prophecy, right? Yeah. To go on this quest, and it's like, but you have no thought about how he is going to, like, how do you just assume that because he's half god that he'll be fine, that he has some skill. But I think that's what they're saying, and I think an important lesson of the book, and I'm assuming, I don't know if Rick, the author here, was implying that, but I think one of the important lessons is that we can't do anything by ourselves or everything by ourselves, that we need other people.
Yes.
And so I like that, like this idea that even though he was just been so disconnected and didn't have a lot of relationships, and that he was kicked out of this school and that school and all this kind of stuff, that he, to make it through all of the monsters and all the things that was being thrown at him, he needed other people and their power or their magic or their...
And it shows that, like, someone, like, that's seen as, like, a bad kid isn't a bad kid. Like, he deserves happiness and friendship just like everybody else. Yeah. And, camp is actually his family because, like, they're all related. So, like, they're all his cousins and stuff. Yeah.
Half brothers, half sisters. No, actually, he's in a cabin by himself.
Yeah. Well, because the gods are all related. So, like, they're all his, like, half cousins and stuff. Yeah. It's a time.
I can't believe this is a book for kids. And I have to say, like, as I was reading it, I would feel, it's not that I felt uncomfortable, but I think that it could have been a better movie. Yeah. It could have been a much more interesting story. Thinking about him getting kicked out and being a troublemaker and being, quote unquote, as Smelly Gabe would say, aggressive and having aggressive tendencies. if he was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
I really feel like aging it up would have helped. It would have helped with some of the, like, I think some of the things would have made more sense, except that I don't think you might not have the same bullies. You might not have, like, some things might have changed.
Right.
But then I think he could give Ares a run for his money, you know, that sort of thing. Right. But at the same time, Harry Potter was 12 when this all started too. But I just, there was something about this where I was like,
it's a little unbelievable that a 12-year-old is doing all this.
Yeah, and it's like, so he was just born naturally into this, even though he's a troublemaker, and he just has to go do this, and he has to use these. What if he didn't like Annabeth and he had to go with her? Then it's like he has to figure out how to work with her.
Right.
But I do like, I mean, there's a lot I liked about it, but I just thought aging up the characters would have been more interesting. But at the same time, 12-year-olds aren't necessarily interested in romance, so maybe, like, if an author would have written them as 16-year-olds, there probably would have been Grover or Percy would have liked Annabeth or vice versa. And so we have that whole dynamic, because you see that happen in Harry Potter as they age, right? And so it's like, oh, is that what's going to happen? Oh my God. I could have wrote these books. Minus the Greek mythology. Okay.
Spoilers too. Yeah, they make it the whole way. They're best friends for a long, long time.
I mean, that's my MO, so it's fine.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. It works.
Did you have any other thoughts about the book?
It was nice to go back. It's always a comfort read for me, and, like, it was nice to read it in kind of a stressful time at the stressful time of the year.
Yeah.
Holidays and all that.
I am so far removed from Greek mythology that I'm like, I almost feel like if I would have done a second read, I think I could have gotten, like, there's a lot.
There's so much.
And it's like that, I haven't seen the movie yet. I will. And if you don't want to rewatch it, I will make my own video for the Patreon subscribers.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I'm going to need something for watching it, though. It's going to be a wet one situation.
Do you need some warm chocolate chip cookie nectar
Yes, I do,
drink?
to suffer through it. Yeah.
Well, I just wonder if part of the issue is that there was so much to cover, and that now, and in 2010, we didn't have Netflix like we have now, and it would have been a really interesting, like a 13 Reasons Why with like 13 episodes or a 12 episode, even like a 7-episode arc.
Yeah, like a mini series for the one book.
Yeah, it could have been really interesting.
Yeah.
And so maybe Netflix is working on it. Bring it back.
Well, they just opened a musical for it. So
tell me about that. You mentioned that at the beginning.
I know very little about this.
Like on Broadway?
My friend was really into Percy Jackson for a while, and she told me, I told her I was rereading this for the book club, and she's like, oh yeah, like, have you listened to the music for the musical? She's like, I actually like the music, and I was like, she's like, it's better than the movie, don't worry. And I was like, I mean, it can't be much worse than the movie was, but
okay, I'll listen to the soundtrack.
Hey, I will too. I haven't listened to it, so we can Patreon react to that.
And I mean, if you can turn P.T. Barnum's life into a great musical, i.e., The Greatest Showman, then
and Barnum too. There's an actual Broadway musical called Barnum.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
We're learning so much today.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my brain hurts. But, I do appreciate it. I think it is interesting. I guess we have to highlight the fact that this focused more on boys than in the previous. Like, the antagonist was a male.
Yeah.
And we've been focusing on girls. And a lot of the books from when I was a child were all about, like, gossipy and winning over boys and being mean to other girls and manipulation and all sorts of dark side things. And you had those characters in there.
Yeah.
And the gods, I guess, provide, like, that good versus evil sort of aspect. Like the, god of war, you have Hades, you have different people. And then you also have people who are good. And then you have undetermined folks. And I think that was, like, what was going on with Percy is people didn't know. So it's like when you don't know about someone or you feel uncertainty, you're less likely to communicate with them. And we fear what we don't know. Right. And so that, I think, is a signal for people not to create relationships with him, which I think is interesting. But also, like, there were evil characters like Luke. Yeah. Right? And it had the friendship betrayal in there. But there was, and that was part of the plot, and I bet that carries over into book 2, perhaps. Yes. But
Kronos is a big thing, like the whole series.
Okay.
Kronos is the overarching like issue.
Oh,
There's like
no.
smaller issues we run into,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, but Kronos is like
he like Kronos is like Voldemort?
Honestly, you're not far off with that one. He's like, I want to take over the world, is basically what happened. The gods are stupid. We're going to go back to the old ways.
But I feel like there was much more a balance of good versus evil. And then I also like that there was a female character. And I almost wonder, though, if it would pass the Bechdel test. You know, the Bechdel test is like in a movie. So if we, you know, you're familiar, the listeners might not be, where it's like you have at least two women who talk to each other about something other than a man. And so the only other thing is like, I don't think they talk about romance almost like at all, except for when they have to go to the water park.
Yeah, they talk about Aphrodite.
But they had Clarice, but like all the other girls,
they're like background characters.
They're background characters. The only other one was Sally, who is his mom. And so I would just like to see some other more prominent female characters. But other than that, like, I think that it focuses on her as a person.
Yes.
And not as an object, not as, you know, like, ditzy. She's smart.
That's her whole thing.
Yeah, she's like, her mom is the god of wisdom.
Yeah, she wants to be an architect.
And she always has a plan.
Yeah.
Girl always has a plan.
Wise girl, as Percy would say.
And what does she call him? Seaweed brain? Or something. Seaweed brain. Because he's the son of the sea.
And he's kind of stupid sometimes.
Yeah, but he's about jumping out of gateway arches, and she's about having a plan, and Grover's about feeling emotion, and that's why he's not a good liar. That's why he can sense things, and I think it makes like a complete, what we might almost assume would be one complete person.
Yeah.
That we might all sort of want to have the heart, we want to have the brains, we want to have the bravery, and that may be truly in life. We don't all have those things, but when we think about who we spend our time with, that the people around us are the ones that help make us smarter, braver, and hardier.
Yes, hardier.
So overall, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the relationships. It's nice to see a guy and girl initially not being forced into a relationship, because I feel like that's our cultural MO.
I feel like it's not even mentioned until like the last book, like
which is great.
Yeah, it's very much about them being best friends. Yeah.
And but the mythology, I was just like, oh my god, it's so much. So like, if I would have had more of like, I should have just done like a crash course on that before.
Yeah, I'm sure YouTube has a crash course like Greek mythology video. I'm sure like the Vlog Brothers have made one.
Yeah, and then afterwards I can go through and then I'll be like, all right, people, this is what you need to know. But I think I wouldn't be against reading further, like, but I need something else a little bit less thinking.
Yeah, it's a lot of thinking. I forgot how much thinking it was until I was reading it back, and I was like, oh wow, I completely forgot they threw all of this in one book. Yeah, and it seems like it could have been across more. Yeah. But are you ready for my next book? The reveal. Let's go.
Yeah. We could probably record next week because it probably won't take you long to read. All right. Actually, I don't know what year it came out, but we are reading... We're going to a different genre.
Oh, we are? Okay.
And so that's the other thing I have to say is I never read fantasy.
Yeah, like, I don't... This is as far as fantasy as I go.
I mean, Harry Potter Wizards, right?
Yeah.
But I never read anything. I'm more of like a mystery, romance, like that kind of thing. And so that was also maybe what took me a little bit longer to get into this. But as you might recall from having me as a teacher in class, I do not like horror films whatsoever. Oh my God.
No.
I'd rather watch true crime all day than watch The Ring. Like, ugh, punch me in the face. However, there are a couple of horror books that I really enjoy. But we're going, again, from my childhood. Okay. And we are reading I Know What You Did Last Summer, written by Lois Duncan. And so there was a movie made in 1997, but this book is from the 80s. Okay. And there's a whole lot of a backstory that we can cover about Lois Duncan as an author and things like that we'll get to in that episode. So that's the next book. So you got to check it out from the library, buy it from a used store. Maybe you'll find someone else's copy.
Better World Books, here I come.
And I've never gotten responses back from the people we've contacted. I'm really sad about it. We're trying to make friends, people. Just because we're contacting you like 20 years after you had the book. Yeah. 20 years after you had the book, out of the blue, like, just come be our friends.
Yes. Join us in discussing your favorite books as a child.
Well, so Claire, thanks for making me read again. God.
So many pages. 375. Yeah. Oh, mine's 377.
Oh, I think. Bigger print?
Possibly. Yeah.
Or small. No, bigger.
Older edition.
Yeah, I have a newer edition. But thank you for coming back. That you still keep coming back on Best Forevers as a repeat offender.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And until next time, friends, read some Greek mythology, because without your friends making you read Greek mythology, who would you be? Thanks for listening to Best Forevers. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and of course, share with a friend. Please be sure to follow Best Forevers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Best Forevers Pod, and I'm at Dr. Alysa Lucas on Twitter. You can always find the podcast webpage for more information at bestforeverspod.com, and share your stories of friendship by emailing me at bestforeverspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the movement to love on our friends more, check out the podcast on patreon.com/bestforeverspod. Now, friends, check out this recommended podcast that you must get in your ear holes immediately.
Bring out your inner detective with every episode of the Hidden Staircase podcast, where I, Sammy, deliver stories and true cases of mystery and murder. You can join us at the Hidden Staircase discussion group on Facebook, or you can like us on Twitter at the Hidden Staircase, and we'll talk about everything mystery and murder. You can also go to accproductions.org/hidden staircase to learn more about the podcast and the episodes we've discussed. Don't forget to lock your doors and hold tight to your flashlight.